I mean, you're probably right. It was lazy policing, honestly, is probably what led to it, and it's negligent. But the media constantly characterizes each one of these events, despite the fact that there are 374 million or so interactions between law enforcement and civilians a year. The very small amount, they broadcast that all fucking day, and they only broadcast it when it's a black person killed by police. If it was a white person that killed a black cop, or I'm sorry, a black cop that killed a white person, no story, right? Or if it's South Chicago getting shot up by gang members all the time, no fucking story. So let's just not pretend like the media hasn't been complicit in pushing this way farther than what the reality suggests, because the data doesn't match this whole fucking notion that there are white cops on the prowl for black people so they can shoot them without weapons.
I don't think there are white cops on the prowl for black people. I think that the discussion needs to be had in an awareness of the potential institutional racism that exists. I'll give you an example. I mean, I see where you're coming from. I mean, I told somebody the other day, look, what if Chauvin had been just a great all-around guy, right? What if he walked into that store and George Floyd was there and said, you know, look, you got a $20 bill here. It's a questionable origin. What do you need? Cigarettes. Get him some cigarettes. He walks out of there with a friend in the community, as opposed to a horrific homicide that triggered everything that we saw.
Right.
So it's none of these things are easy, right? And that's the problem, is we try to fix it all in one session, one discussion, or anything else. But all of it does, uncomfortably so, lead to some sort of reconciliation of where we got to go here. And again, I'm a big boy. I know the world. I know the realities of it. But you know, it's been a hell of a thing to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah, and it's I think it's doing a disservice, because there are real issues. They're primarily economic, class-based. The $1 trillion or so that was robbed out of the black community by slavery, the fact that 83% of all wealth is transferred from one generation to the next, all those things play a role. And there's no greater predictor of crime than poverty. That's throughout human history for 6,000 years that we've been recording it. Conflating that with some kind of desire by police to injure people unnecessarily. Do you really think people want to fucking deal with that shit and do that paperwork? I mean, cops are by and large good people. 374 million interactions per year, and about, I don't know, not even enough to register. Less than 1,000% end in some kind of negative way, basically. But all right. And it's, look, this is just a problem of entertainment in general. It's not exciting. Community policing is not exciting. It just isn't. You know what I mean? It doesn't sell any newspapers for, hey, a cop fucking helped an old lady across the street today. Nobody cares about that shit. But it's a story.
Well, it's also, that's what's supposed to happen.
Right,
exactly. By its definition is when something happens it's not supposed to happen.
Correct, yeah, absolutely, you know, yeah. And it's,
you got to come to grips with that. I mean, yeah, everybody's supposed to help the elderly.
Right.
That's what we're supposed to do. If everybody did what we were supposed to do, it'd be great. But that's not what happens. And so when somebody does something egregious, that is the definition of news. Mm-hmm. And what happened in Minneapolis, when a cop put his knee on a man's neck for 9+ minutes, was egregious. Mm-hmm. You can't get around that. It's shocking, horrible on every level. And he was white and the victim was black. So, you know, that is what it is.
Well, it's not what it is, though, because you're talking
about.
Those are the
facts of the case.
Those are the facts of the case, but that's not the facts of reality for the vast majority of people.
I understand that, but I'm telling you, that is the way the media, and it deserved the attention that it got.
That is the way the media framed this whole thing.
But I can
like
tell
what you're
you
talking
that.
about. You're talking about institutional racism and all this stuff. And look, there's certainly institutions that are biased against poor people. There's no question about that. There's literally no evidence that it is along racial lines, because you can see the same shit in rural West Virginia that you see in South Central. However, this entire event and every single one of them, no matter what the victim's role leading up to that point was, they're seen as a martyr, and this is seen as something that is common, and it is not. And the media decided to put that out there as if it were common, and it's not. And they're doing a disservice because, one, we can't fix the real problem if we're focused on the wrong one. Two, the black community now sees police as the enemy in a lot of ways, and that is simply not the case, right? It's just not the case. So you can't get people to be invested and feel equity in a community if they feel like the government is against them. And we're all seeing that now. Everybody hates Congress. Nobody really particularly likes any politicians these days, right? You see how that maps out across the world in the struggle or the strain it puts on the economy, on culture, how everybody's fighting and all this bullshit. When you constantly feed that to the community, white people feel the need to defend themselves. Black people feel the need to tune out and be against the police, right? It is amoral at best that the media has done this and continually perpetuate like this. Any kind of dissenting voice in media gets shut down now.
How would you change it if it was up to you?
Well, I would get rid of the media entirely because it's a fucking propaganda wing at this point, frankly. I mean, like you said, there should be some kind of class taught to children, probably in high school, life skills, how to change a tire and fucking what your credit score is, how to balance a checkbook, if you want to use old terminology, and then how to think. Not what, but how to think. How to, like what you said, with digital media in particular, all the information that's coming in.
Oh, critical thinking.
How to fucking tell what the fuck is happening. There's just so much data now. And there's so many people intent on warping that data to meet their needs, whatever they happen to be, whether it's monetary or social or whatever. How to fucking get rid of that? And my suggestion would be for parents to start teaching their kids how to think and not what to think, frankly.
Well, that goes back to the central point of, the predator investigations and the other types of work that I've always tried to do, which is, create awareness, create a dialogue. Not always going to agree, but the fact that we're having it creates a process of thought-provoking gestures that hopefully educate.